Sure. Here is section 1 of your story script, written in a direct, emotionally engaging style with no fluff, as requested. Word count, 500 words. I used to believe Jake and I had something unshakable. We had been together for 3 years, shared a downtown apartment, and everyone around us thought we were the ideal couple. He was the stable one, calm, structured, always thinking 2 steps ahead. I loved that about him. But over time, his predictability started feeling less like comfort and more like distance. Our conversations became transactional: groceries, work schedules, reminders to call his mom. The small sparks, spontaneous dates, late-night talks, had disappeared. Jake's best friend, Liam, was the exact opposite. Where Jake was reserved, Liam was vibrant, loud, teasing. He had this magnetic energy, like he saw everything as an inside joke. He'd been around from the start. We met through Jake, obviously, but over the years Liam became a constant presence in our lives. Weekend barbecues, game nights, even helping us move furniture. He always treated me like one of the guys, but I'd catch him sometimes watching me a second too long. I brushed it off. He was just friendly. Maybe a little too friendly. A month ago, Jake told me he was going on a week-long trip with his college friends. I smiled and told him to enjoy it, but deep down I was annoyed. He didn't ask if I wanted to come. Didn't consider that maybe I needed a break too. I told myself not to be needy. He kissed my forehead, said he'd call every night. The moment he left, the apartment felt colder than I remembered. Liam texted me that evening, casual as always. "You good? Want me to drop by with Chinese?" I said sure. I was lonely, and the idea of not eating dinner alone felt like a small relief. He showed up grinning, 2 takeout bags in hand. "Jake's lucky," he said as he handed me a plate. I laughed it off, but my stomach tightened. Over the next few days, Liam kept dropping by. Not every day, but enough that it started to feel like routine. He'd fix the flickering kitchen light, bring over wine, stay and talk for hours. He asked about my job, about my art, things Jake hadn't asked me about in months. One night, we watched a movie together and sat just a little too close. My mind kept flashing warning signs, but I ignored them. He didn't touch me. He didn't have to. The tension between us was obvious. Electric. I told myself it was harmless. We were just friends. Jake trusted him, and so did I. Or maybe I trusted him, because Jake did. That Friday night, as Liam left, he paused at the door and looked at me like he wanted to say something. Instead, he smiled and said, "You know, he's lucky to have you. I hope he remembers that." Then he left. And I just stood there, wondering why that one sentence felt more intimate than anything Jake had said to me in weeks. Ready for section 2? Of course. Here's section 2, written in a clean, emotionally tight narrative with no repetition and focused storytelling. Word count, 500 words. I didn't see Liam for 2 days after that night. I told myself it was better that way. Things were starting to feel off, like we were drifting into something neither of us had acknowledged, but both of us felt. But when he texted midweek, "You up? I've got your favorite ice cream." I said yes without thinking twice. That night, we didn't talk about Jake. We talked about childhood, regrets, favorite places we'd never been. He told me his dad left when he was 13. I told him I still had journals from middle school. At some point, we stopped pretending this was casual. He brushed a strand of hair behind my ear and didn't pull his hand away fast enough. My heart was pounding, but I didn't move. I asked why he never settled down. He looked at me too long before answering. Because I was always watching someone else settle with the person I wanted. It didn't register at first. Then it hit me and I didn't know what to say. He stood up, muttered, "Forget I said that," and started to leave. I followed him to the door, unsure whether I was supposed to stop him or let him go. Instead, I asked him quietly, "Did you mean it?" He nodded. No hesitation this time. "I think about you more than I should. I always have." I should have closed the door. I should have said something about Jake, loyalty, boundaries. Instead, I leaned forward just enough for him to meet me halfway. The kiss was soft at first, then urgent. Then it stopped as suddenly as it started. We didn't speak. He left without another word. The guilt was immediate. I sat in silence for an hour, then called Jake. His voice was tired. "Long day," he said. "Can we talk tomorrow?" I said okay. I didn't tell him what I'd done, even though part of me wanted to. Not because I needed forgiveness, but because I didn't want to carry it alone. The next day, Liam sent a voice note. Just 5 words. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I listened to it 3 times. But he came again that night. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. We just sat on the floor with a bottle of wine between us, not saying much. And that silence said more than anything else. There was no pretending anymore. Whatever this was, it wasn't just loneliness. It was choice. It was deliberate. He finally looked at me and asked, "Do you want me to stop coming?" I stared at him for a long time. "I don't know," I said. "But I don't want you to stop caring." That was the truth. And maybe the most dangerous thing I'd said so far. Let me know when you're ready for Section 3. Absolutely. Here's Section 3, staying sharp, emotionally charged, and forward-moving. Word count, 500 words. I avoided Liam for the next 3 days. No texts, no calls. I needed space to think, but all I did was replay that kiss over and over in my mind. I kept asking myself if it meant anything, or if I wanted it to. I felt like I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross, but somehow it wasn't the kiss that haunted me. It was how much I missed him afterward. Jake called every night, same routine. How was work? Did I water the plants? Had I seen Liam around? That last question caught me off guard. I lied and said no. The pause that followed felt heavier than it should have. He didn't push. On the 4th night, Liam showed up unannounced. I didn't plan to let him in, but I opened the door anyway. He looked like he hadn't slept. "We need to talk," he said. I told him I wasn't ready. He nodded like he understood, but didn't leave. Instead, he sat down and said, "Then let's not talk." I should have walked away. I should have ended it. But I didn't. I sat next to him, and the space between us disappeared like it had been waiting for permission. No words. No hesitation. When it happened, it wasn't angry or chaotic. It was slow, quiet, intentional. We both knew exactly what we were doing. Afterward, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel loved. I felt cracked open. Liam looked at me like he finally had something he'd been chasing for years. I didn't know what that meant for us, or for Jake. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking how quickly loyalty can unravel when someone makes you feel seen. Jake texted the next morning. He'd extended his trip by 2 more days. "Could use the extra time," he wrote. I stared at that message for 5 minutes. Guilt should have come rushing in, but instead I felt numb. Liam made coffee, acted like nothing was different. I wanted him to say something, to define this mess, but he just smiled and asked how I slept. I didn't answer. I couldn't. That night, I deleted the voice note he'd sent days before. Not because I didn't want to hear it again, but because I couldn't stand how real it sounded now. How final. The next morning, he didn't text. I didn't either. I told myself it was better to let it fade. That if we didn't talk about it, maybe it would disappear into memory. But it didn't. Every room in that apartment had absorbed it. The smell of his cologne on my pillow. The glass he left on the counter. The shirt he'd taken off without a second thought. By the time Jake flew home, I had already decided I would act like nothing had happened. That was the only way I knew how to survive it. Let me know when you're ready for Section 4. Here is Section 4, the final part of the story, written with emotional clarity and no filler. Word count, 500 words. Jake came back 2 days later than planned, tanned, relaxed, carrying a bottle of wine he thought I'd like. I smiled, hugged him, told him I missed him. He kissed me like nothing had changed. Maybe for him, nothing had. But I felt like a stranger in my own life. He talked a lot that first evening, stories about the trip, inside jokes with his friends, future plans for us. I nodded, laughed at the right moments, cooked dinner. I watched myself move through every task like I was watching someone else's body. Every time he touched me, I flinched inside, though I never showed it. I couldn't unfeel what Liam had made me feel. Liam hadn't reached out since that morning. No texts, no calls. He vanished completely. I waited, at first. Then I told myself that was for the best. Still, it burned. I didn't expect love. I didn't even expect anything beyond chaos. But I didn't expect silence either. Jake didn't notice. Or maybe he did but chose to ignore it. A week passed.
2.
Liam was still gone. I wondered if he told Jake, or if guilt had finally forced him to run. One evening, Jake came home early. He set down his bag, looked at me for a long time and asked, "Are you okay? You've been quiet lately." I said I was tired. He didn't push, but I could see it in his eyes. He felt it too. The distance. The weight of something unsaid. I almost told him.
I wanted to.
Not for closure, but to stop hiding inside my own skin. But when I looked at him, I saw the man I used to love. And the man I'd betrayed. I said nothing. 2 more days passed. Then, out of nowhere, Liam texted. Just one message. "I can't do this. I'm sorry." No explanation. No follow-up. Just that. I stared at it for a full minute before deleting it without responding. That night, I sat across from Jake at dinner and wondered how many other things we'd buried between us. I asked him if he was happy. He looked at me like the question scared him. "I think so," he said. "Are you?" I didn't answer. 3 months later, I found out Liam had moved to another city. Through a mutual friend, in passing. I didn't feel shock or sadness. Just a hollow, sort of acceptance. People leave. Sometimes they just don't say it out loud. Jake and I are still together. At least on paper. We laugh, we eat meals, we post pictures. But there's something gone between us. Something I took and gave to someone else, even if just for one night. I still think about that week. Not because I regret it, but because it showed me how easy it is to lose yourself when someone finally sees you, and how impossible it is to be truly seen again after that. Let me know if you'd like the full script compiled or adapted for voiceover or subtitles.